Two Dutch crews, what a turn-up in this race. Netherlands 2, Germany on an outside lane, in danger of losing a medal. The Dutch first crew and the Australians both were quickest in the time trial, so we had Britain and Germany in yesterday's repechage. Britain beat Germany in that. On the outside lane we have the Italians, the bronze medalists from the Worlds last year. Here are the second Netherlands crew, Mike Mantle up on the right of your picture in the bow seat. And in the stroke seat we have Nelson Rietsma. There are the blades of the world champions, unaccustomed to not being in lanes 3 or 4. Coxed by Martin Sauer, stroke by Hannes Ocek. And how inspired will they feel after that German World Cup victory last night? Brilliant performance from the Dutch strokeman, the Neerhouse oarsman Freek Robbers, to take his crew into a victory in the time trial heat. Will it be enough on the side-by-side racing? Here was a surprise, really. The Australians, they've strengthened their boat. They put in people like Nick Purnell, the Sydney University rower, and coached by Andrew Rangel. They are on fire here. British got their mojo back to beat the Germans in yesterday's repechage. Put in Tom Ransley and Tom George up in the bows. It's different from the crew, just two men different from the crew that finished behind the Germans in Belgrade. And here, no changes. Enrico Daniello, the little Cox on the left of your picture, in charge of driving the 8 men who took bronze at the World Championships in Sarasota last year.
And this is certainly a race we've been looking forward to, as we take a little look there and see the view that Henry Fieldman has as he looks at Will Satch and the British crew. But they're out there in lane 5 because we want to see what the Australians and the Dutch can do in this side-by-side final of the men's 8.
Well, on times in those time trial heats, the Australians were quickest, you know, significantly so, but, you know, that doesn't mean anything, really.
Well, it's a pretty even start, as we'd expect. The Australians, you said, quickest in the time trial. Their female cox, Kendall Booth, females now coxing men's crew, sat in the back. It's Martin Sauer, sat in the back here of this German crew. And they've got the World Cup bibs on, but will they have the power that they need to move the 8 down this course today? As the British maybe had the best of the first few strokes, the Australians and the Italians didn't.
Sensational start by the Brits. What are they doing leading the Germans there? I mean, the Germans do get this pace from 200 metres through to 500, but that is a brilliant start by the British. They are going to be on fire today. There's the Australian crew, stroked by Robert Black, the man from Mossman Rowing Club, 22 years of age. And at the moment we haven't seen their pace. Germany, as we expected, coming through in the second part of the first quarter.
As we say, the British got a very good jump in that first 10 strokes. Then it's about what happens after you do that, after you settle into your pace. And the Germans at the moment have just been slightly quicker from strokes 10 to 40, as the crews now will be looking for some kind of a rhythm, as we see Matt Tarrant's blade there in the 7th seat, backing up Will Satch as they come through their first 500.
1:19 through the first quarter. That is a very quick time. World record pace is 1:18, but 1:19 in these conditions is trucking as we look at Will Satch there. I think that's pretty good for the Germans. The bow number 3 is the Netherlands boat. The Australians haven't shown yet, perhaps missing the magic that took them to that time trial victory. I just think it's how much of the British put into that first bit of the race, Greg, because, you know, Germany now, you'd say the crew that goes through 500 would dominate. We've seen Britain go back on the Germans in Belgrade, but have they put too much to try and be competitive with Germany?
Well, I think it depends where your head's at, really, in that phase of the race, because the British got out quickly. Those first 10 strokes, they come for free. You don't work any harder to get them or not get them, as we see the Kendall Brody there in that stroke seat, trying to lift this Australian crew, trying to push them on and keep pace with the rest of the race going on. So we get the Germans here. They're in control, 7 metres up and moving well.
Well, who's to say? This is an inspirational row as Martin Sauer looks to his right, checks where the Netherlands are, checks where the British are, sees if the Australians are coming up. As they come out halfway, boy, is this race going to be quick. It's going to be over quickly. Germany have a second lead on Great Britain. Britain will come back in the third quarter. Will the Netherlands and Australia do the same?
Well, I think it's a move from the Netherlands there. If you look, they were the second quickest crew in the second 500, boat number 3. They'll be pleased in the Johan Cruyff as to how they have moved their boat through the British. Now the British, after that early lead, need to keep their heads in it. They need to keep focused and realise that the first 10 strokes, just because that lead's gone, doesn't mean they can't accelerate on again. But it's the Australians now who've got the speed they had from the time trial, but can they recapture it now in a side-by-side race? And it looks like they're feeling the pain in this big third quarter.
Yeah, it's a massive third quarter for the Australians and their female cocks making history here. But Germany, wow, that is inspiration. They are destroying the field in the third quarter. They'll have to hang on in the last. But for my money, Germany, inspired by that fantastic last-minute performance of their World Cup team last night, are on form here. That is a sensational performance. They lost to the British in the repechage. They couldn't manage to qualify quickest from the time trial, but these boys are putting a race together.
Well, I guess they're proving it isn't over till it's over, and they had a bad time in the time trial. They had a bad time in the repechage yesterday, but the British have responded. So the first 10 strokes was one thing. Then there was the phase they got into from whatever, 100 metres to 1,000. Now it's about this last big push towards the line. The British have got their speed back. Let's see what happens in this final 500.
So 1.27 seconds the British are behind the Germans. The gap in Belgrade was 2.21 seconds. The British closed that by almost a second at Belgrade. This is where it's going to hurt from the Germans. The British are charging. You can see the Germans at the top of your picture. The British are around about a third of a length with bow number 5.
I think the Germans have gone again, though. With 500 to go, I think the Germans stepped on again. And although the British had a little bit of a sniff, the Germans, I think, have snuffed that out.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. And sorry to mention it, in the 2012 Olympics, Greg, where your right was so close to the Germans. Richard Schmidt, the man with the white cap just behind Johannes Odczek, was in that boat that took the Olympic gold. So was Martin Zau, the cox, as he looks to his right and tells his men, you can win this race. It will be a sensational victory if the Germans overturn the form book.
Well, it's such a fast race. We're coming down to the line now. It's already done, I think, for the Germans. The British are going to be hanging on for the silver, with charging Dutch crews coming at them on both sides. And what a big play this is for the Dutch number 2 crew, who I think are putting a lot of pressure on their number 1 crew.
So as they come up to the line, the British are charging, but it's too late. Germany will win this. An inspirational performance from Deutschland Acta. They take the gold medal. Britain take the silver yet again, and it's the first Netherlands boat, just beats the second Netherlands boat. Australia back in 5th, couldn't quite relive the promise of the time trial, level with the Italians, the world bronze medalists. But what a relief for the Germans. It will be a massive relief as you see the German 6-man there. Malte Jacek lays back into the lap of the big 5-man Jakob Schneider. You know, the German nation and the team felt that relief at the last-minute goal, but that will be exactly what these German rowers will feel after the pressure on them this weekend, not performing in the time trial, not performing in the repechage. When it comes to it, side by side, Bosch, out go the world champions, and they take that gold medal.
Well, we see the 3 crews celebrating there, the Dutch crew in the 3rd place, Great Britain in 2nd. But like you say, Martin, it's the football metaphor, I think, is true here, that you don't count out these German teams until you've got to the final whistle, or the finish line in this case. That they might have looked a little shaky earlier on in this regatta, but when it mattered, they delivered.
So, there we see the first few strokes of the German 8, unfussy, just get off the start, we'll do our damage through 200 through to 500. Get our bows in front there. Will Sachs, the Leander Club strokeman, had an operation on his heart this year for atrial fibrillation, and great to see him recovering so well from that.
Yeah, and then the Australian crew here, as we said, straight off the plane, first thing out, they were the fastest 8 in the world in the time trial, but just seeing they still need a bit more time in Europe, and I'm sure they'll have more to give. I'm sure they'll be disappointed with the side-by-side performance, but there's nothing like a race to give you the experience. Yeah,
I have heard the Australians entered, of course, in the Grand Challenge Cup at Henley, but I have heard they will put their 4 in the 8 for that race Greg. So we may see a fantastic contest in that famous event at Henley. But there's Germany crossing the line first, arms in the air from Max Planner, the three-man with the beard. Straight away, absolutely celebrate to the sky.
You see Martin Sauer clapping his hands on the side of the boat. I was speaking to him yesterday and he was saying they needed to make sure they could find their power, find their aggression, and they did it in that race. As we see the Germans back at the top in the men's 8, ahead of Great Britain, and the Netherlands